my doula was going to leave at 5 o'clock in the morning, but she said she wasn't going to disturb me if she, if we didn't go to get her, saying that, contractions are back, it's time, blah, blah. Then she was going to go ahead and leave and go home, and for us to call her. She lives about 10 minutes from me, and for us to call her when things, if they did pick back up. So she texted me about 6 o'clock and said that she made it home, and just to let her know, how things were going, whatever. So I texted her, said that I'd been having contractions since 5, which is about when she left, but I didn't want to stop her from leaving if it was just going to do the same thing again. So, yeah, contractions were coming, and then they started speeding up. They were about 3 minutes apart. So I talked to her. We decided that I'd try to eat a little something for breakfast. I was hungry. And if it was going to do the same thing again, then they would kind of slow down after I ate. So I ate a little something, not too much, just something to get in my belly. And they were still coming, so then I decided to go ahead and take a shower, kind of get ready for if we were going to head to the hospital. So I did that. They were still coming in the shower. They were definitely more painful. My doula decided that she was going to come back over to my house. We were probably going to be heading to the hospital soon. At this point, contractions were actually stopping me, and I had to kind of breathe through them, kind of rock back and forth, which is kind of not so much how they were the day before. We decided to load up and head to the hospital, and the doula followed us in her vehicle. And I had one last contraction before we got in and started to make the drive. And fortunately for the drive, the contractions did slow down a little bit. They were around 6 to 7 minutes apart. And that got me thinking, I hope they don't start fizzling out when we get to the hospital and they send me home, or whatever the case may be. But we got to the hospital, and they sent me to their, monitoring room before they admit you into the hospital to see if you actually are in labor. They hooked me up to the monitors and, check on babies, see how contractions were and everything. And contractions started picking back up a little bit. They were about 5 minutes apart. So they monitored me for about 15 to 20 minutes, and then the nurse came in and checked me, and she told me that I was, much to our delight, 4 to 5 centimeters dilated, and my bag of waters was bulging. So all those contractions that I had been having were making some progress, which is fantastic. We were happy to hear that. So they decided, that I was in labor, and went ahead and decided to admit me. And it was just kind of funny because even walking to my room, I was just still calm as could be. I had to tell them on the intercom for them to open the doors to let me into the labor and delivery area, that, I'm pretty sure I'm in labor, I've been having contractions. They opened the doors right away. And after they checked me and I was being admitted and walking to my room, a couple of the nurses said, "We didn't think you really were in labor. You were just so calm walking in here, acting like it was no big deal, and you're in labor." So I thought that was kind of funny. So when we got into the room, it was a little bit before the nurse that was going to be assigned to me came in. So until then, we were just kind of walking around, just kind of laboring in the room. I was just trying to stay on my feet. I did not want to be in the bed at all. The nurse came in, got us settled a little bit more. The whole plan was for me to have a natural labor and delivery, and, no IVs, fluids, anything like that. I didn't want any pain medication. I didn't want any of that. So I wanted to stay as mobile as possible through the laboring process. So she put a hep lock in my arm, took, the vials of blood for, the testing, whatever they do, and then just for, emergency or situation where we needed to do fluids or, whatever the case may be. So that was placed, and luckily getting to the hospital, it did not slow the contractions down. They picked right back up. The contractions were feeling low to me. They started in my back and started, and wrapped around to the front. I was feeling a lot of pressure in my back. over the next couple hours, I was just steady progressing. I found the most comfortable when the contractions came, kind of bending over and leaning on the bed, the hospital bed, and just swaying back and forth, swaying my hips. And my husband and the doula would take turn doing the hip squeeze, which would help relieve the back pain a lot. So that was a huge help in my laboring process. My doctor came in, I don't even remember exactly what time it was, maybe 10:30, 11, maybe closer to 11 o'clock. I don't remember exactly, but he checked me, and at that time I was measuring 5 to 7 centimeters. He said my cervix was really stretchy. And he also broke my water then, which I wasn't aware that he was going to be doing. But he did, and so that was that. So my bag of waters broke, were broke at around 11-ish, 11:30. Like I said, I don't exactly remember what time. But I felt it. I said, "Did you just break my water?" And he said, "Yes." And I guess I wasn't clear, you know, that I really didn't want my water broke. I thought he was just checking me then, but whatever. He told me I could still be mobile after having my water broke, which is good because a lot of times they don't want you to be mobile after your water breaks. So that was fine with me then. You know, my water was broke and I could still be mobile, you know, do whatever I wanted to do. Now, throughout my laboring process, they did have to hook me up to the monitors just to make sure baby was doing okay. So every hour for about 15 minutes, I was hooked up to the monitors, but the nurse was super cool. She didn't make me, you know, lay down on my back in the bed. I can be on my hands and knees in the bed. A lot of the time I was standing by the bed with the monitors, and she was just, you know, sitting right there on the stool making sure the monitors were staying in place. So she worked so well with us with, you know, me staying mobile and trying to achieve, you know, my natural delivery. So I kept on feeling like I had to pee a lot during this process. So when I went to the bathroom, I'd always have a contraction on the toilet, which my doula said was good. It helps kind of relax and open things up a little bit. So as contractions were getting closer together and stronger, what helped me, along with leaning up against the bed, was just kind of holding on to my husband and kind of dancing, swaying back and forth, kind of leaning my head into him. And then my doula was doing the hip squeeze still. So that definitely helped so much with the back pressure and pain that I was feeling from the contractions. Next thing, I was on the toilet, and Justin went in there. The contractions were getting a lot more intense, so I wanted him in there so I could kind of lean and he could kind of support me when I was having a contraction. So he sat his back facing towards me, kind of knelt down with his back facing towards me, and I would kneel and, you know, kind of lean forward and have my hands on his back, just kind of rocked back and forth while I was on the toilet. And I had about 3 or 4 contractions. They were definitely coming a lot closer together. I had about 3 or 4 contractions in that position. And my doula, she didn't come in there right away, you know, the first couple contractions, first contraction or so. But then she came in, she straddled the toilet on my back and started putting pressure on my lower back. And then, and these contractions were getting so intense, and I started shaking, my legs were shaking. So at that time is when she knew that I was starting to go through transition. So we decided to get me off the toilet, you know, get back into the room. And at that time, she, before I got out there, she poked her head out, and the nurse was in the room and said, I think it's close, you know, I think we need to start, you know, getting things ready. You know, maybe get checked if she wants to see where she is in the process. So we went back out into the room. Contractions were definitely coming really close. Decided to go ahead and let the nurse check me.